In a world where a little girl was abandoned by her mother.
I'm sorry, Billy. Mama's too tired to sing tonight. I just hope I finish this cigarette before I fall asleep.
She was a dancer who wanted to sing.
Hey, you're a good dancer. You ever try singing?
Now she's finding out what it takes to make her dreams come true.
I'm gonna make my dreams come true.
Whoa, this girl can blow! But to get to the top, she'll have to beat the best in her scene.
You can make me feel the way I do.
Mariah Carey. Some guy who looks like Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, the name's Max Beasley, you prick.
Glitter, rated PG-13.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Tim Morrison, joined by my wonderful co-host, the diva himself, Paul Ireland. Paul, how you doing?
Tim, you got me feeling emotions. I'm feeling good because we're going to have a lot of fun talking about Mariah Carey tonight.
Yes, that's right. We chose the movie Glitter for this episode. Came out in 2001 and distributed by 20th Century Fox, starring Mariah Carey. I've been waiting to watch this movie for a long time, and I've held off. But I'm so glad that we have a podcast now, because now I have a reason to actually have viewed this. And I'll tell you, it's movies like this that motivated me to do a podcast about bad movies. This movie is one of the worst ones I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Was this your first time viewing this movie?
I have never seen this movie outside of just watching this for the podcast. And unfortunately, since starting this podcast, we have been asked an inordinate amount of times now to view this movie and talk about it. So we're finally going to do it. And this is the most amount of times I've watched this movie. I guess one is more than none, but I've watched this like 3 times now. So it's 3 times too many that I've seen Glitter.
Yeah, I watched this 3 times as well. I just finished watching it about an hour before we started this recording, and it was the hardest one to get through. I found myself just carrying my phone around and watching it on my phone in the background just so I could kind of catch up with it. And I hated every moment of it.
Yeah, you love talking about it. That's so weird.
I do. There's just so much bad stuff to talk about. That's it. Viewing this stuff alone is kind of hard, but having the chance to talk about it with somebody else who has also just watched it, now that's fun.
Yeah, this is sort of like shared trauma. It's kind of like therapy. You're like, oh my God, did you see that part too? And the other person's like, I know, what was going on there? This is horrible. It's it's like, I don't know. It's like going through a really tough boot camp and being like, I survived that. And you're like, I know, me too, man. Remember that one part that I didn't think I was going to get through it. And it's just, this movie is one of those movies that was a mental gauntlet to run, just to watch this thing and try to exist at the same rate at this movie and concentrate on it. This was almost Star Wars Christmas special level of like difficulty as far as trying to just watch this thing and focus in on this horror show. This was a really hard movie, even just on the internet, to find, to watch, or just like, being the conditions what they are right now, like you can't really just find this movie. You can't even just go to Blockbuster, or like there was an actual DVD rental store by my house and they closed down like a couple months ago. My heart was broken. I actually had a little membership there. It was kind of cool. But I bet you I could have found Glitter there. Nowhere else. In real life, it is hard to find this movie. And is there a reason for why this got buried other than it is what this movie? Is there a reason for that?
There's no official reason that I'm aware of. However, my guess is that nobody involved with this movie is proud of it. Mariah Carey herself has said that she regrets doing this film.
Yeah, I think so. But you know what's weird too? I think in doing some research on this, I think maybe last year, the year before, the Glitter soundtrack charted on iTunes for a bit or something, and she came out and was all like, "Yeah, it's great," and she kind of was at that point was like, "Oh, it's okay, it's not that bad." So maybe it's just you're feeling that heat at that point, and then when everyone's loving it, you're like, "Oh, thank you guys." maybe this is a hidden gem, or this is some weird like cult flick. It is. I actually, you know what? I think this is a cult flick.
Definitely. In our area of things, it's definitely a cult hit.
Well, I just mean that doing some research online, when I would find videos and interviews and stuff like that, I would look at comments and feedback and stuff like that people would leave, and everybody in there was like, I love this movie. I don't care what you say. This movie is amazing. People, for some reason, really liked it. It's like they're fierce Mariah Carey fans. They're just like, you leave her alone. This movie is amazing. So I don't know. And that's fair. If this is your movie, good for you, I guess. This is what you like, and no one can tell you that it sucks. So you don't have to listen to us. At least if you think this is good, you can come along for the ride. And this, I think this is going to be at least fun and entertaining to discuss.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
So I think we probably circled this wagon enough. We should just dive into this. What do you think, Tim?
All right. You ready to go down the runway?
I'm ready, Heartbreaker.
So normally we would start off with a synopsis for the movie, just to kind of give you a basic premise of what it's about. However, this movie doesn't really have much of a story. What you need to know is that Mariah Carey goes from young to approximately early 20s and becomes a star. And things happen along the way. If it wasn't already taken, you could call this movie The Happening.
Yeah, kind of.
You're about to see what we mean here, because things just happen. So the first thing to happen is we start off in approximately 1973. It's in black and white, and we're in a very smoky jazz cafe.
It's a cafe. It's like a pool hall bar, I would say. What is a jazz cafe, Tim?
Where people have drinks and listen to music.
That's like a Starbucks. They play jazz at there. This is Starbucks and Jazz Cafe.
Okay. Well, what would we call it? Okay. So wait, let me try that again. We start off in what looks to be a very smoky and seedy bar. We have a singer on stage who is singing about some blues. In fact, the song she's performing is called Lily's Blues. People are kind of hooting and hollering a little bit at the beginning, but then they don't seem to be too into it. Off to the side, near the bar, we see a little girl. I'm going to guess say she's probably like 10 years old. She's sitting there watching what we find out to be her mother singing.
Wait. This is a 10-year-old in a bar.
I know.
Everyone's smoking around this and playing pool, and this lady's up there in a James Brown onesie singing the blues. And they have a 10-year-old at the bar. What is going on right now? Just already off the top.
Oh, that was the 70s, baby.
I guess so. I guess, the mom, she's got no other choice, apparently. So I feel bad for her in that way, but just the whole look of it, you're like, this doesn't seem right.
Well, she does what every good mom would do and invites her on stage to perform with her. So they both sing the blues together. And this young girl has quite the voice. So that little performance is a hit. Everybody in the bar loves it. So afterwards, we see Mariah Carey and her mom. By the way, Mariah Carey's name in this is Billy Frank. So Billy is walking with her mom, Lily, and...
That's a pretty whack name. Billy Frank. You picked Billy Frank, Mariah Carey? Like, she's Mariah Carey, just a real quick sidebar here. Like, she's a real diva, right? Just like almost as much of a diva as me.
Not quite, but close.
She's definitely nowhere near as the Freddie Prinze Jr. fan I am. But do you think they were like, we want to call your character Billy Frank? And she was like, oh, that's great. I mean, because she also, this is the other thing too, I forgot to mention, was like, this is kind of like a Britney Spears joint, where like, it's just basically centered around this person being awesome, and bad stuff happens to everybody else throughout this entire movie, and the writing is whack, And Mariah Carey also, in some of her songs, like I kind of enjoy some of her music. I'll say that, just put that out there. And I also had a mega crush on Mariah Carey as a kid. However, she has a lot of songs where her singing is like, she's like, it's like a whisper sing, and it's really hard to hear what's going on. But she also speaks that way too, and it's hard to hear her sometimes. It's like a Britney Spears thing. She does that. Hey, how are you? I'm gonna sing.
Well, first off, Mariah Carey makes Britney Spears look like Judi Dench.
Yes. Well, Mariah Carey can actually sing.
However, Mariah Carey cannot act. So Lily and Billy are walking the streets after the show. Apparently, Lily got fired. That performance got her fired. I'm assuming because she brought her kid on stage or something. Because she goes to her daughter's father, I guess a former lover, and asks for money. Or, well, even just a place to stay. But he's like, no, you can't stay here. and here's some money. See you later.
Here's my question about this whole situation. Because I was perplexed about this too. Is this a hustle or is this the truth? Because her mom, I don't know. Like, I don't want to, I don't know these people. You don't know anything about who they are as people in this movie yet. You just saw them sing in a lounge and the little girl came up in front of a bunch of drunk people and sang and people liked it. And then she's like, okay, because this is what happens. She pulls Mariah Carey aside, little Mariah Carey, and she says to her, you know what to do, right? And she's kind of like fixing up her hair and whatever. And then she goes up and she says, I lost my job and she needs to eat and whatever. So did she get money at this thing? Because, you know what I mean? They're cool with this 10-year-old being in the bar right beside someone just smoking a cigar or whatever, or drinking some tequila. And
it was a hit as well with all the patrons.
Yeah, so I mean, would the bridge too far as we're coming up on the stage? Like that doesn't make any sense. So I kind of think this is a bit of a hustle.
I agree with you on that point. You're probably right. So after that, we don't really know what she does with the money. I guess we can assume she buys a pack of cigarettes, because she goes home and she lights a cigarette and is starting to fall asleep. But Mariah Carey comes over and, takes a cigarette and puts it out. Basically saves the whole apartment building. Then we immediately cut to what I'm assuming is like an hour later. And Lily here lights up another cigarette and falls asleep. Then we cut to a massive fire. It's just out of control. And there's fire department people everywhere. Luckily, Lily manages to grab Billy, Mariah Carey, and gets her out of the building.
Can you? This lady is like Ray from Trailer Park Boys. She just how are you passed out hammered? And then you get up 3 hours later, I don't care, I'm going to smoke. And you're sitting there and then you just pass out again immediately. Who does that?
Well, you might be surprised. A lot of people do that.
I guess so.
That's never happened to me personally, but I can tell you, I've seen the news that stuff happens.
But come on, people. If you're hammered, stop smoking. Stop getting up in the middle of the night hammered and smoking. Because this stuff happens.
If you're tired, don't have a cigarette and sit. Just stand up.
That's right. And what happens is Child Services unfortunately comes by and deems Mariah Carey's mom unfit. So it looks like she is taken away, and Mariah Carey's mom is just basically seems like she's just ordered to get clean and sober, and then she's allowed to have her kids back.
She promises little Billy here that as soon as she's allowed by the law, she will contact Billy.
I think that's a very important point to highlight right now. Circle it, put a couple arrows around that idea, put that in your brain, just save that for later, because we're not going to come back to that until much, much later, okay? So just think about that. Anyways, that's another problem, but we'll get there.
So from there, we're still in black and white land here, so I guess we're in the past. This is still the 70s. And Mariah Carey is getting ready to make friends in this new foster home. And that's where she meets Louise and Roxanne. I know one of them is played by the rapper Da Brat.
Da Brat. You think when they were filming this movie, they had to be like, okay, on set, we need Da Brat? Or they would have been like, Miss Brat, Miss Brat, are you around, please? How does that work?
I bet they did. I bet you they asked for Gaga. Anybody know where Gaga is?
Gaga, are you around? Gaga. That's fair. We got to highlight something. The reason why this movie is so bad, it's just layers and layers of things that just went wrong with this, okay? Just the weird shots that happen in this movie sometimes made me just burst out laughing because they were so silly and took you right out of whatever was going on. So right after these little girls are talking and they sort of become friends, it just kind of stops and it's still black and white, and it just zooms in really slowly on baby Mariah Carey's face. Like this weird shot that just holds for 15 seconds, just zooming in slowly on little Mariah Carey's face. And then we cut to the future. Well, it's not really the future. It's 1983, but it's kind of the future to them. And Mariah Carey and her two friends, Da Brat and Roxanne, they're all dancing in a club. They're all dancers? I guess that's what's supposed to be going on?
That's what it is. And Paul, I only know that they're dancers because I had to go to Wikipedia and just check the plot summary because I wasn't sure what their role is here. I really didn't know.
Yeah, again, this really perplexed me. I wasn't sure. I saw them dancing, and then we're going to see in a few minutes that Terrence Howard comes up to them and he's like, hey, you guys are good dancers. Do you sing? And I was like, oh, they're a dance trio. Okay. See, I didn't understand that. Are they hired by the club to dance? Because they're up on a stage right now dancing. And it seems like they are the focus of this. This is kind of like Electric Circus before Electric Circus.
I don't have a great amount of experience at the clubs per se, so I'm not really sure about this. But all I can say is that the few clubs that I've been to, I'm not aware of any dancers that are getting paid to just dance. Like, that's not a thing, right? Is it?
I don't know. Maybe in the 80s, it was like you had this, like, you know, clubs were just starting to be a really big thing, maybe. So people were like, oh, come to this club. So maybe it was like an influencer before an influencer. They're like, oh, if you come dance at this club. I don't really know. Doesn't really make any sense.
It's totally weird that they leave us with not knowing, that they don't actually indicate exactly what her purpose is at this club. But in any case, like you said, Tim Walker here, played by Terrence Howard, approaches the three and wants to recruit them for backing his girlfriend in her new music endeavor. And I guess he's producing her as well. Louise and Roxy are super excited and down for it, and they say yes. And then Mariah Carey says, I'm sorry, I'm kind of busy right now, we can't do that.
Terrence Howard is dating that other girl in this movie, their boyfriend and girlfriend?
I only knew that because of Wikipedia as well.
Really? I didn't know that. I mean, I guess he was kind of interested in her, but he seemed like he's kind of interested in Mariah Carey too. But I guess everyone's kind of driving that lane. But
her name is Silk, by the way.
That lady, yeah. It is weird that these girls are apparently a dance trio, and then this guy's like, can you sing? Just based on, I guess, how they look. I guess it's supposed to be like the Spice Girls or something, almost, where you just recruit people based on their looks and their attitude or something. Then you're like, oh, if they can sing, that's good too, I guess. But it also seems weird that Mariah Carey is hesitant to just sing when it's just like an extra part of the act, and you probably get paid something as well too to do that, you know? Because she just like shuts that down right away. She's like, not happening.
One of the things I kept on thinking about while I was watching this movie was like 8 Mile. Good portion of it is like completely fictionalized and exaggerated and stuff, right? But you do get kind of a little bit of a glimpse into what rap battles look like in some kind of a way, right? And you understand the workings of it, and you understand how people are going out and recruiting other ones and forming teams and whatnot, sure.
And you find out that Eminem apparently only takes 8 seconds to have sex.
Right. But you learn all that through that process. In this, you learn nothing. Like, you and I are sitting here, like, asking each other, is she a dancer? Yeah, I think she's a dancer. How do you recruit that? I don't know how it works, because this movie's not based in any kind of reality. It's just things happening.
Yeah, this is almost like Crossroads again, where just stuff happens and you're just like, oh, I'm looking at a pop star. That's about it. There's not really any sort of coherency that kind of goes through this, other than Mariah Carey is a singer, and you're right, stuff just happens.
The next thing that happens is something that happens over and over, and it started to drive me crazy. Right after that conversation where she turned them down, the very next scene is Mariah Carey and her friends arguing about what just happened. So much in this movie, it happens where something happens, and then the next scene is just talking about what just happened. So they argue with Mariah and say, hey, you know, it's money. We should do that. We can shake our asses. That's a quote. And so she changes her mind and they do it. There, that happened.
You're right. They could have cut so much out of this. You did not need any of that. Just been like, yeah, why don't you sing? You're a great singer. This is slam dunk. Just sing. What's the problem? It is weird. So now we cut to the studio where Terrence Howard's alleged girlfriend, what's her name? Silk?
Yes, Silk.
Silk, okay. She's got this friggin', this again. What is with these movies and people wearing Danny DeVito, Oswald Cobblepot onesies? Because that's what's going on here. But this thing has like David Bowie feathers on the shoulder. And I hate to say this, but that suit is so tight right in a specific area where you would not want it to be, grabbing something and leaving certain impressions, folks. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to white glove that if you thought of an animal's foot.
Holy. At least they can say in this, though, that this is the 80s. You know, the 80s were pretty crazy. Now we go to the studio where Mariah Carey and her two friends are now playing backup. A little bit of light backup singing and dancing. They're in the studio, and Silk is singing now. And this is what Silk sounds like.
You and only you can do the freaky things you do. And I'm
Her husband, her boyfriend here, played by Terrence Howard, okay? He's supposed to be a music producer, a high-end music producer. They drop his name he's a big name to be involved with.
That's Tim Walker. That's Tim Walker.
How in the world do you sign that garbage? Like, this girl, Silk, she can't sing at all. I would believe this movie a little bit if she was like a good singer, but Mariah Carey sang better.
Yeah, that's fair.
The whole point of this scene is that Mariah Carey is a better singer. Like, we're watching the movie. We know that already. Why in the world do you need to pair her with, like, this horrible singer? Like, she can't sing.
This person is the reason you would have auto-tune, honestly. Before Cher started making it all cool, and then the rapper stole the Cher thing, but ever. This is really bad. This is really, really bad. And you're right. It is interesting that this guy is supposed to be a respected producer, yet this is the talent that he is trying to push. And everybody knows that she's not good. Like, you just hear that this person sucks. This is like those really bad American Idol auditions. But someone gave her a bunch of money in studio time, was like, hey, you could be a singer. And we should also note, too, that Silk is such a bad singer that what happens is Terrence Howard is listening to the mix and he actually gets the producer to lower Silk's voice and pushes Mariah Carey's voice up. And her voice actually becomes the predominant voice of this track now, this You and Only You song.
So this movie has two different ways of transitioning into another scene. One is a crazy strobe effect of some scenery of New York City. And the other transition is people dancing at a club. Right now, we're going to go with the dancing at a club transition, and we actually end up staying in the club this time.
We are going to meet now, probably to me, the most interesting character in this movie for just all the wrong reasons. We are going to meet Dice. Dice is a DJ. And Dice is a stupid name. I just want to get that out of the way right now. Like, that you would call a character Billy Frank, and you're just like, that's my name I'm going to go with for this Mariah Carey character. Okay, whatever. But then you're like, I'm going to have a character. Who's your love interest? We're going to call him, I don't know, Dice. We're going to call him Dice. To me, there's only Andrew Dice Clay. That's the only Dice I know. This guy is like a scrawny wannabe Mark Wahlberg in like a weird muscle shirt that's not a muscle shirt.
I thought that he was Mark Wahlberg, or at least Donnie Wahlberg.
Right?
I thought he was at least one of the Wahlberg brothers for sure the whole time I was watching the movie. So I was surprised to see that he wasn't.
Exactly. The only difference is instead of doing that over embellished Boston accent, he's kind of doing like an over embellished New York accent. He's like, "Hey, it's Mariah. How are you? I'm Dice. It's me, Dice. Oh, hey, it's that guy, Dice. I play the marimbas. Did you know that? Get in the car. You're gonna hear Grandmaster Flash. I'm wicked pissed off right now."
So apparently this Dice fellow, he is an up-and-coming DJ, and he was just given the new track. He is just amazed that Silk has such a good voice, because from what he heard prior to this, she was really bad. So after the show, he runs backstage to meet Silk and congratulate her.
When Dice comes backstage, the first thing he says to this lady, we need to just play that part.
Oh man, that was great.
Thanks. Did you really like it?
Silk, I had no idea you could blow like that.
Wow.
Hey, Silk, I had no idea you could blow like that, huh? It's wicked.
Hey, Silk can blow, guys. She can blow. She can really blow.
That really, honestly, the fact that he's called Dice and he's talking like that and he's doing that, I didn't know he could blow. That is the closest thing he's doing. He's almost doing Andrew Dice Clay there. He's almost, hey, little boy Blue, he needed the money. Oh!
Hey, maybe he was supposed to be like a younger version of Dice. This is the early 80s.
I guess, but he would need the Gold's Gym muscle shirt, probably a bit of blow, definitely the leather jacket, and the just those loud Macho Man Randy Savage sunglasses. Just like, that's what you need. Hickory dickory dock.
While these two are sort of like just sexually fawning over each other with innuendos, a photographer comes in and wants to get a picture of Silk and her dancers, her backup dancers. And Silk is having none of that. She says, forget about the backup dancers, they're not important. And she just throws her feathered boa up in the air so that nobody can see the dancers behind. Mariah Carey and the girls are having none of that. So just as a little dig on the way out, Mariah Carey starts singing the song that Dice had just heard, of which Silk has been taking credit for.
That's right. snap back, bitch. That's right. That's right. She's just like, I'm not having it. You're not the actual singer. I'm the real one here. I'm the hero.
Dice is super infatuated with Billy here now, Mariah Carey, and he tells her that she has a bright future, and he's gonna find her a label that will sign her.
Again, another reason why I was laughing in this movie was Mariah Carey's outfit in this too. She's dressed like a bike messenger right now. With this little, she's got like spandex and a little bike hat with the little bill flipped up top, but it's like probably like a $3,000 hat because it's Mariah Carey. So I don't know, but she looks like it. That's honestly what she's doing. She's gonna jump on her bike and get out of here. She's got to go do the Tour de France or something.
So we go to, I guess, I don't know if it's the same night or a different night at a club. Dice apparently is playing, he's the MC as well as being the DJ. He's kind of like the hype man for the club this night. And he's going into the crowd, doing a horrible strut, dancing. And he decides that he's going to use this opportunity to play a little bit of freestyle karaoke to the tune of Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. And he's just going to random people in the crowd. He tells them you can sing or you can rap. We get a few raps from people. This one girl says, like Elliot Ness, I rhyme the best. Rip the S off Superman's chest. Okay, do you know who Elliot Ness is?
No idea.
He is the prohibitionist who caught Al Capone.
Oh. So how does he rhyme the best?
I have no idea.
That makes no sense.
Why is she ripping the S off of Superman's chest?
Leave Superman alone. Yeah, what, we got kryptonite on your hands? That don't make any sense. If you're an introvert, this would be like a nightmare for someone to just come up and put this mic in your face and start dancing awkwardly, like, come on. And you're like, no, I'm good, man. You imagine that you're up there like, yeah, I'm good, thanks. I don't know. Or I don't know. What? Maybe I would just start singing. You just started singing Bohemian Rhapsody or something.
He finally gets to Billy, who is dancing here in the crowd, and he puts the microphone up to her. She's looking like she kind of doesn't want to do it or is shy or something. It's really hard for me to interpret Mariah Carey's acting. So I'm just guessing with all this. So she looks like she doesn't want to do it, but then she gets the microphone and goes right into it.
I feel like Crossroads is going to be my constant reference for this movie because I feel like it mirrors it in a lot of ways. And this is sort of, again, kind of like I Love Rock and Roll, but the only difference is, again, Mariah Carey can actually sing. But it was sort of just the idea that she's a reluctant singer. She's like, no, I can't sing. I don't want to. And he's like, hey, come on, let's go. Let's hear your pipes. Let's see how you blow. and then she's just going, ah! And her voice goes, like whatever is 3 octaves above C or whatever.
She does that signature Mariah Carey whistle.
That scream, that banshee thing. That's just like, wow. It's like if on a guitar, it's basically the 24th fret. I don't know what that is.
After Mariah Carey is finished doing her little freestyle singing there, we zoom on her face, and then her face explodes in this transition of fireworks. And boom, we're on to another scene.
I burst out laughing the first time I saw that because I just didn't expect it to happen. Again, just like these weird transitions where it zooms in on her face, or we like fade into some random dancing stuff, or her face explodes into fireworks, stuff like that. There's no vision for the actual film. They didn't actually get a coherent director, it seems like, or someone who knew what the hell they were doing. They just made some random Mariah Carey movie, and it's just vignettes of just whatever it seems like. But like, it's mind blowing that you're like, that's the scene that's our transition we're gonna do. Just something that was so goofy and stupid, and it was just like a non sequitur. Like, where are these fireworks?
Exactly. What's the celebration all about? I don't know.
Right? It's like it was honestly like Spice World, watching parts of that where I'm like, what is going on? It's raining in an office. This makes no sense.
Well, it happened. So we're on to the next thing. Now we're at another bar. I don't know. It's some bar. Dice here is talking to Timothy, Silk's manager. He is trying to convince Timothy to sell him Mariah Carey. This is, again, where I was kind of like, what is Mariah Carey doing? Is her and her 3 friends signed up to be a contract for this horrible singer?
I don't know. It seems like she's apparently under some contract that you never saw her sign ever. The guy was just like, hey, can you guys sing? Yeah, you guys dance well. And they're like, yeah, maybe. and then they just go to the next date where they're in a studio. You could have just paid them $100 to sing, and that's it. And I don't see how how Terrence Howard contractually owns Mariah Carey. You don't see that anywhere. There's no hint of that. There's nothing. There's no explanation whatsoever.
Well, Timothy here declares that she's worth $100,000, and that's what he sells her for.
That's what he sells the women in his life for, $100,000.
Going off of where this movie goes, I'm to assume that they have a handshake deal for $100,000. So we quickly cut to some scenery of New York. We see the Statue of Liberty and a bridge. And boom, now we're back in the studio. Mariah Carey is singing. I assume that she is singing a new song that Dice has produced for her.
This song is actually kind of cool. I like this. It sounds like a Prince track.
Yeah, the song's not bad. I think it's worth saying that the music in this movie isn't bad. So, anyways, this performance here cuts to another performance, and then it cuts to another performance, and then it cuts to another performance. And basically, you get the idea here. She is performing. So thank you, movie, for explaining that. So then we're at another club. Dice is quite a bit dressed up now since we saw him last. He looks like an asshole.
I was thinking somewhere between Tom Cruise and Neo from The Matrix.
Yes. Yeah. He's wearing his sunglasses in the club at night. That's what I qualify an asshole to be. Unless you have specific reasons for wearing sunglasses at night. Some people do. But, this guy looks like a jerk.
Again, it's the 80s. A lot of people probably on cocaine. He might be one of them.
I wouldn't put it by him. So now we're going to go through a quick little seizure trip through the city where we see a whole bunch of different things flashing really quick. And then we're at another club. And this time, Dice here, Lucky 7, that's his nickname, by the way. His nickname on top of his nickname.
His nickname's middle name.
He gives a cassette tape to, I guess it's the DJ that's playing at this club. It's her new single that she just recorded and performed like 3 or 4 times. Immediately, they run upstairs and they meet this record label executive. I assume he's a talent scout. That's what I'm going to call him because they don't really say what he is in the movie, but he's important because he's wearing a suit. He shakes Mariah Carey's hand and says, "I am signing you." This song has been playing for 30 seconds, if that. I don't even think at the point where he says that he's going to sign her, I don't think that she's even had a full verse of singing in the song.
I think she's played 5 shows, it seems like, with this song that is not charted anywhere. It's not released anywhere. It's not been played on the radio. Mark Wahlberg here just gave this cassette to a bald DJ in a club, and a bunch of drunk people were kind of dancing to it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good. We could definitely just bet our whole career on this. Let's just sign you right now. You're going to be a superstar."
They tell her to show up to the building the next day and meet everybody, which they do, and it's a bunch of people in suits just gawking at Mariah Carey and shaking her hand, and some of them are drinking wine. By the way, have you noticed how much drinking Dice is doing in this movie? Like, he's like a Julian from the Trailer Park Boys. He always has like a glass of wine or like some kind of a whiskey and Coke or rum and Coke.
Yeah, definitely. And again, he's wearing sunglasses in this place. Again, he's just walking around with sunglasses, drinking champagne. Like, he is super Hollywood now. Seems like, with his little pleather jacket.
Now they're traveling around in limos.
Wouldn't it be that nice if that's all you had to do was just exist as Mariah Carey in the 80s and pass out a dirty mixtape? And someone's like, "Here you go. Here's $500,000. You're a superstar now. Go
dance at a bar, and then within a week or two, you probably will get signed to a major record label."
Recorded one song, and you've danced in front of like 300 people at a couple clubs.
Mariah Carey is getting ready to go out with Dice on a date. Maybe, I don't know. She's pondering that with her friends, whether this is a date or a business meeting. I don't know what the hell these two have been doing for the past few months while she's been performing and whatnot, but apparently this is the first time they've ever gone out for dinner or shared a meal. The dialogue in this movie, this is like one of the worst points of the movie with the dialogue, because Mariah Carey is asking Dice whether this is actually a date or not. Dice says, "No. If this is a date, you'd know it." Mariah Carey asks, "What's on my plate?" And Dice says, That's escargot. It's French. Mariah Carey says, somebody went all the way to France to get this. And then they both share a laugh. That's it.
Yeah.
So that happened. Then we go to, we cut to them in a limo, and Dice is trying to convince her to come inside and check out his place because he wants to show her his marimba.
Yeah, come on upstairs. I want to see how you blow. I'm never going to leave that one alone.
For those of you who don't know, a marimba is a musical instrument that's very comparable to a xylophone. So he plays the marimba for her. Little dong 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 dong. He puts his marimba sticks down and looks at Billy and says, I like it a lot. So they make out and have sex.
Stellar writing, stellar cinematography, stellar acting. Just all around a stellar movie.
So now we're circling around the Empire State Building. Looks pretty good. Okay. Now we're at the studio. This scene is kind of confusing to me. All I can tell is that Mariah Carey is in the singing booth. They're recording a new song. And there's some studio execs as well as Dice in the other booth producing the music. Mariah Carey is sitting on a stool with her arms folded. She looks very bored, not pleased at all. Dice in the other room says, cut all that crap out of the music, the background noise and stuff. And then he goes in and tells Mariah Carey to sing it like you would sing it. And so she does. And I'm like, what is happening? Why is any of this? I don't understand what the point of this is.
It was the weirdest music direction I've ever seen. But you know what's funny about this? I loved Dice's direction in this too, because he's just standing there and he's like, hey, lose all this extra stuff. What is this? And then the guy like cuts down basically a bunch of stuff in the song. Well, at least it looks like he's pulling a bunch of faders down. And then he stands there and he's got his arms out like he's riding a bike and he's like, yeah, this is great. And he's just kind of doing this shoulder shimmy thing, which I couldn't stop laughing at.
I hate his dancing. I hate his dancing in this.
Yeah, God, he's a terrible dancer. I can't let that go. Sorry, that's just sitting there in my brain. It's like a sneeze. You have to acknowledge how bad of a dancer he is in this movie and how awkward he is. It's just horrible. Anyways, it seems like he's supposed to be manipulating the song and he's actually coaching everybody. But if you listen to the song and you listen to the original song, which is just Loverboy, that's what they're playing. It's Loverboy. That's the single. He's like, lose all this extra stuff, all right? And you hear everything start going down and stuff. And you hear just the bass out. Bow, 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 bow. That's just how the song goes in real life. So this guy actually didn't do anything. And maybe he was like fake. Maybe he was fake pretending. He's like, oh yeah, Dice, I'll do that for you, yeah. And it's like the fader standing. He's like, hey, this is great now. I love this. Like no one in this movie seems like I would trust them as a producer. Not him. Not Terrence Howard. No.
So far, all this guy can do is play a marimba. Anyways, as she starts singing that song, we cut to the city. We see Mariah Carey and Dice are in the back of a taxi. On the radio playing in the taxi is the new single that they just recorded. So Dice naturally asks the taxi driver to turn the radio up. And then he jumps out of the car and starts dancing in front of the car. This horrible, crappy dance that we've been talking about. And Mariah Carey's in the back taxi like, what are you doing? And then the taxi driver gets out of the car and is like, hey, what are you doing, man? And Dice grabs him and starts dancing trying to force this poor taxi driver to dance with him in the street. There's cars just honking, people losing their minds, and these two are just like dancing in the street. Then he grabs her and they're like, we got to call somebody. So they run to a payphone and call her friends. The taxi's still just sitting there blocking traffic, by the way.
He also kicks a kid off the phone too. There's like a little kid on the phone with somebody. And then Dice is like, hey, do you hear this? This broad's on the TV here. Get off there. And then he just like kicks the kid out and he's like, okay, let's dial him up. Hey, DeBrat, listen to the radio there, you guys. You hear this song? What? My question is like, how do you go from literally just recording this thing to you just walk into the cab and all of a sudden someone now is just playing on the radio? Where is the connection there? Did you leave a studio? Do you know somebody in the studio? It's not even like, hey, I got a hookup in the studio there. That guy down there on 97.3. You know, there's nothing. You don't hear any of that. There's nothing. You just walk out. Somehow this song has magically just been through osmosis or Wi-Fi before Wi-Fi. Just got to this radio station and that's it. And now it's on the radio. In 1983. What the hell's going on?
I have no idea. Now we cut to a music video shoot. And Mariah Carey and her friends are wearing a silver bikini suit type thing, and they have this silver blanket draped over Mariah Carey. She's kind of they're dancing with it.
Yeah, it looks like a toga or something. I don't know. And it's raining. It's raining this sparkly confetti stuff down on them too. This is such a. What the hell is going on in this?
They have a director here. Here's what the director has in mind.
We ask ourselves, is she white? Is she black? We don't know. She's exotic. I want to see more of her breasts.
What?
What is?
What? Who? Oh, and whose first question was any of that?
That's what's on everybody's mind.
Yeah. Is she white or is she black? I mean, we want to see more of her breasts. I could see how that's kind of a no-brainer to a certain demographic, but like, who thought about any of this stuff?
That whole direction made no sense.
This is weird. This is awkward. You know what I also thought was confusing too was, again, the three girls are supposed to be a trio. They're supposed to be singers. They're supposed to be dancers. They're in this video dancing. And the first thing the director does is like, these two dancers suck. Get them out of here. And then they bring in a bunch of dudes in body paint. And that just gets even weirder from there too. And that's supposed to be the weird, sexy direction they're going in.
And that director, the whole time that these men are dancing with Mariah as backup dancers, he's yelling at them to grab her breasts. Grab her breasts. Grab her breasts. Grab them more. Grab them more. It's so awkward and weird.
Is this what happens on a music video shoot? People just yelling weird stuff at you like this?
I don't know, Paul. Dice gets really uncomfortable and calls this video shoot to a halt. He's like, this is over. I didn't sign up for this. You're not taking advantage of her. And they leave. And as they're leaving, the studio exec says, this is the biggest mistake ever. We're not going to come back to that at all. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, you think that there would be some sort of continuity with that storyline, but yeah, nothing. Again, nothing. Well, there's a lot of things that go very unresolved within this movie, and it's really weird and confusing.
So now we're back at the studio where Mariah Carey has just finished recording her newest single, and she's being hounded by her PR reps. And they're going over some photos that they managed to salvage from the video shoot that went wrong. And while they're going over those, Dice here has a real problem with the clothes that Mariah Carey is wearing. And here's what he thinks about it.
Wait, that's good.
She looks amazing.
Yeah, if you like Titsy the porn star.
I think the whole point of that is just to show that Dice is, for whatever reason, it's like once he gets to know you, he's a complete asshole. Like, this guy's just a dick for no reason. And there's no filter on him either.
Every scene now going forward, he is just more and more of a jerk.
Yeah, it's like a ratchet. It's just like incrementally going up more in levels of being a dick as we go through this movie now. He just gets worse. While Mariah is in the studio, again, there's just like a bunch of this where there's a lot of where Mariah is just in the studio, just apparently cutting tracks. She hasn't cut an album yet, it seems like. She's just making one track at a time, and somehow these tracks are just going platinum daily, just in some weird way. So she's in there cutting another track again, and again, there's Terrence Howard. He runs into Dice in the hallway, and he steps aside, and he goes, hey, man, you need to pay Daddy his money, basically. He says, give Daddy his money. And Dice says, I'm not giving... It sounds like he's just basically like, I'm not going to give you your money. Because it sounds like Dice doesn't have any money. So he's kind of like, I'm just going to stiff you. And there's a bit of a standoff. And Terrence Howard's like, it's like that, eh? And so Dice says, yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
And then he just leaves that room, and you hear the message by Grandmaster Flash. It's like every time this guy is pissed off in this movie, for some reason, that song just plays to let you know he is pissed off. And it comes in like 3-4 times in this movie. The amount of times that Dice is pissed.
The reason he justifies not paying Timothy back his money is that it wasn't a good deal to begin with.
What does that even say about what you believe in Mariah as a singer or person?
There's no angle to look at Dice here from a sympathetic point of view.
No. He's a complete prick. You're right. There's like, he's just... But I guess also too, I would just be like, hey man, you didn't sign a contract with her, so I owe you nothing, really. I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe he did sign a contract. But they don't explain that to you. This movie's like an hour and 40 minutes. And the things that you should know, they don't tell you. You just kind of have to just guess it. And I think that's how they can just string a bunch of scenes together. I'm pretty sure, too, I read somewhere that they just rewrote a lot of stuff on the spot and improv some things. So that's probably why just nothing makes sense. They're like, and they went to a bank. This is almost, now I'm thinking about this is almost Tommy Wiseau level writing. They're like, and maybe he's a vampire. I don't know. Anyways, what happens next is Mariah's feeling a little emo because she's writing a sad song about basically missing her mom and stuff. And her and Dice talk and they decide that maybe she should just start looking for her mom. So she does that. She goes out to, I don't know, some adoption place or something. It seems like she goes to some place where people sit and push paper around all day in suits and they're trying to help her locate her mom, I guess it sounds like. And they don't really have a location on her, it sounds like, as well.
The last known address was 10 years ago at the home that was burnt down.
Yeah. So I want to say so much about that, but we'll just leave that again because I think it's just there to remind you that they're like, oh yeah, I remember when her mom left her and was a horrible person at the start. And you're like, oh, okay.
Don't forget about her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still 40 minutes of this. We have like 16 musical numbers to go. Once again, you're not hearing this wrong, folks. We are back in the studio again. It's like they just bought studio time for a week and shot a bunch of random scenes and they just picked stuff and put it together because we're in the studio again and we're sitting here and Dice is sitting there doing his stupid dance again, playing more tracks, be like, hey, what do you think? It's wicked awesome, huh? And the execs are sitting there and they're just shaking their heads. They don't like any of this stuff. So we cut to, for some reason, Mariah Carey was with him there, but she's back at the apartment going, how did it go with the execs? Which is like, weren't you just there? Weren't you just sitting in the same room, watching their faces, not be happy with the music? Didn't you just pick up that vibe? But no, we have to reiterate this one more time to you and let you know that because God knows why. I guess because they didn't make it clear the first time. So he's like, hey, they didn't like it. They didn't like the woe is me stuff. It's 1983. Everyone's doing blow and having fun. So they want more upbeat stuff. And it sounds like Dice is getting pushed to the side. They don't want Dice anymore. It sounds too much like Billy Frank, I guess, which is like, okay, right on. So he's out. And and this was the hard part. This is why I had to watch this 3 times because the next thing that happens is she's at this stage and it looks like she's about to go for an audition or something. And that's what it seemed like at first. I didn't realize what was happening. But apparently she's at something called the USA Music Awards, which it's literally 3 times. It took me to watch this movie to understand that is what happened. I did not know that.
Paul, even you telling me that, saying that right now, I don't think that I realized that this was for an award show. Because in the previous scene, like you said, the executives said that she should work with another producer and to get rid of Dice. So I thought this was her testing out the idea of working with someone else.
Do you see how confusing that is? It's insane. Yeah. 3 times I had to watch that to get that. Yes. Because it's what happens is there's like some nerd with a little headset on. He's like, oh, come over here, Miss Frank. And he tells her, you're up next after this guy. Right. Because I was like, this seems like she's auditioning for American Idol or some like a talent show or talent scouts or representation or something. But that's what it is. It's like they're doing a rundown of the show. So they're like, so you're on after this guy. Here's your mark. You're going to walk out, do your thing and walk away. And it's like it's supposed to be the USA Music Awards, and then this little tiny theater that seats like 400 people.
The funny thing about it, the reason why we were both so confused about this is because the next scene is the after party.
What the hell?
We don't see any awards being handed out, speeches or performances. Of all the performances that are shoehorned into this movie, you would think the obvious one would be the scene where she is performing at the USA Awards.
Right? Yeah. No, but that would require hiring people and actually maybe doing something, I guess. Because they walk out and they're like, Miss Frank, what did you think of the performances tonight? And she's like, they were great. And there he is, Dice.
Do you want to talk about what Dice is wearing?
This man looks like Steven Tyler. What is he wearing? He's a pirate.
He is dressed like a pirate of sorts, yes. He has a button-down shirt that is completely unbuttoned, and he has no shirt on underneath of that. There's nobody else at this party dressed like that at all. And he has a whole bunch of jewelry hanging down on his chest. You're right, he does look like a pirate. So Mariah Carey and Dice are socializing around this party here, and they're running into different music executives. They run into this guy who does soundtracks for movies and suggests that Mariah Carey should do one. This is where Dice, he just starts becoming a jerk out of nowhere. He's like, oh yeah, I'd like to be in the movies too. I'd like to make a score for a movie. And the guy's like, yeah, sure, Deuce, I'll get on that.
I think what's happening is he's becoming more resentful as Mariah Carey increasingly has more and more attention on her. And I can assume, since he wrote a bunch of songs where he feels like maybe he's part of it or he helped discover her or something too, but obviously she is the talent. It's Billy Frank singing. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's that. So this guy, so he's getting more and more resentful as this happens. And he's kind of getting, he feels like he's getting pushed out, which is, like the executives told him straight to his face. So like, we want to work with someone else, not with you. We want Billy Frank not to work with you. It's over. And then the other thing that happens too is that there was a performer at this fake music award show that she ran into at the start of this who wants to meet her. And this guy seems like he's quite smitten with her. That's the vibe I got. It seems like he's hot for Mariah Carey, but he's also he also produces music too, or writes music, and he's an artist or something. And he pulls her aside and is like, I'd like to collaborate with you sometime. I think it'd be fun. And then Dice shows up, and he is also again protective and seems like he's growing more irate by the minute, and he sort of horns in there too. And the guy's like, yeah, we can totally just make this a threesome or something weird like that, he says. So
to record an album.
Yeah, exactly. But there was some weird innuendo in there where I was like, what is this? What is going on here? But regardless, it doesn't matter because, again, Dice, being just a top tier dick, pulls them out of the situation and they're back in the limo. The next thing that happens is whilst they are in the limo, basically Dice is going to have just a meltdown and he's just going to go nuts on everyone. You thought Mariah Carey was a diva. This guy's a diva because he's just getting really pissed here. And it just kind of crosses the line in general, I'd say. I think that's the only best way to explain that.
Hey, Louise, you know what? I produced just something a little more than a body pop, fat ass. Don't mouth off again, roach bag.
Wow, man.
Roach bag. Oh, this is why I was blown away by this too, because you think that Mariah Carey's friends would have the reason to be resentful because they were originally her friends before Dice discovered her when Terrence Howard discovered them. And then they got the Britney Spears treatment. They got mimied. They got pushed to the side. They're like, you can just sit in the back of the limo and hang out with us. You're lucky you get that, you losers.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good sports considering they were fired.
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's Dice that's super saucy. This guy's he's in whatever it is, Rolling Stone or Billboard or something. He's on DJ magazines and stuff now. Like, dude, you must have something else going for you other than just working with Mariah Carey.
The next scene, we see Mariah Carey crying in the bathroom. And then Dice walks in with no shirt on and sits down beside her and says he's sorry. And then she says, I forgive you.
Yeah, that's it. The only thing I have to say is just he's now gone into Anthony Kiedis mode. He's just wearing jeans, basically. He's suck my kiss, Anthony Kiedis.
Just skimming through a couple pointless scenes that I'm not even going to bother to mention because it'll just waste our time. We are back at Dice and Mariah Carey's apartment because they live together now. Mariah Carey moved in with Dice. She is walking around the house assuming that Dice is home, asking him if he knows what he's going to wear for the after party tonight. Right after she says that, we hear a voice go, I don't remember being invited to no after party. Out from the shadows walks Timothy, Terrence Howard. First she asks, where is Dice? And he says, I was wondering the same thing. Then she says, how did you get in here? And there's like a 10-second pause of silence. Then he just proceeds to tell her that he wants his money back, his $100,000. And up to this point, Mariah Carey didn't know that. She thought that she was just a free ticket.
Yeah, she did not know that she was an indentured servant. That's right. She didn't realize there was any contract. That's the thing too. How do you sell a contract to someone that no one signed? That makes no sense. Right off the bat, I'm sorry, man. You have no argument. If you went to Judge Judy, this would be done in 5 minutes. She'd be like, you don't have anything? You're an idiot. Get out of my court.
Where's your receipt? Show me the receipt. You don't got a receipt? Okay. I can't believe this. This is over.
You're a liar. I don't like that. No. Sit down right now.
And then some people in the audience laugh. She goes, shh. I love it when she makes jokes and then yells at the audience for laughing.
I don't understand how Terrence Howard got in here in the first place. It's like he snuck in through a window and just waited and crept out of the shadows. He was like, okay, she's here. I'm just going to walk in now. He's like, I didn't get invited to this party.
You know, it'd be just as easy to wait out by the front door. Why do you got to wait inside? Whatever.
Where is Dice anyways? He's not a DJ anymore. So he's basically either at this house or he's in this studio that they're perpetually in. And I'm like, where's he getting the money for all this stuff too? How did he pay for any of this studio time? He was a DJ. Now he's not a DJ. And I guess maybe he made some money with some of the stuff and royalties, but I don't understand.
Wouldn't you think that he'd just be able to pay Timothy back?
Yeah, I guess so. But maybe he's sticking to you didn't give me a contract, so I'm not paying for this.
Over the course of these two asking each other questions that get no answers, Timothy tells Mariah Carey that he doesn't want to hurt her, but he will. And then he leaves. Then Dice comes home, and here's another just great example of a scene reiterating exactly what we just saw. When Dice gets home, he says hi to Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey is really upset, and he says, what's wrong? And she says, Timothy was here today. And he was like, Timothy was here today? And she was like, yeah, here in this house. And he says, Timothy was here today in this house? And she said, yeah. She just reiterates exactly what just happened in that scene. There's nothing new in this conversation at all, other than that now Dice is upset.
Like for the third time in this movie, you hear Grandmaster Flash play. And you know Dice is pissed now because you're getting this overhead shot of the city and he's waiting for Terrence Howard. And Terrence Howard walks out of this place and he gives him the bum's rush and he just shoves him up against the wall and just beats the crap out of him. So that happened.
I'll give this movie just a little tiny bit of credit for pulling a little bit of a twist. Because you know what, Paul? The trope usually goes that someone borrows money from somebody or owes somebody money. They can't pay that money, so that person goes to them and beats them up. But in this situation, Dice handshakes to agreement that he's going to pay Timothy $100,000. When Timothy comes asking for the money, Timothy doesn't beat him up. Dice goes and beats the crap out of him for coming to him and asking for the money for the second or third time in the movie.
Blown away. To be fair, Terrence Howard doesn't seem like a great guy either. I mean, he's breaking into rooms and threatening women and, apparently selling fake contracts. I don't know.
I don't endorse any of that activity. However, $100,000 is a lot of money, depending on who you are. But most people would consider that to be a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying you should go and break and hide in their house or anything, but you could wait outside and ask for it back. I don't think it's that much of a stretch. Like, he shouldn't have gone in their house, but it's not that much of a stretch that he really wants that $100,000 back, especially considering how bad of a singer his wife is.
I guess so, but we just did like 2 minutes on why Judge Judy would be like, this is stupid. This is not a contract. You're out of here. He's got a reason to be upset, honestly, because he sold a fake contract. Mariah Carey basically finds out through watching the TV that Dice beat up Terrence Howard. So she's at a performance and she finds this out and she goes over to see Dice at their place. And what happens next is they have a fight and he's like, hey, you stupid. I don't need you. Get out of here. And she's like, I'm leaving. And so she leaves and it seems like they're broken up now or something, or they're not talking. They're not having a good time. They're not in a good place emotionally at this point, it seems like. So the next thing that happens here also I found kind of confusing because I guess maybe I'll explain this later on when we get towards the end of the movie, which we're really close to. But the next day, basically, the studio execs have her in the studio for like the 400th time in this movie. It's no joke. There's just so much GD studio time in this movie. And that's what's happening right now is they put her in the studio. Again, it seems like there's some sort of budding romance here that you would think that's what to me seemed like was happening here because they had this breakup of Dice and Mariah and this guy's there again and they seem like they're very close with each other. Like he is like really close. They're leaning up on each other. She's, they're listening to the mix and she's kind of like leaning in on him too and listening close and singing near him and stuff. And it does seem like there is some sexual tension.
Paul, can you blame her?
No, I mean, Dice is a terrible guy. Absolutely.
I mean, this is what she needs.
Absolutely. I understand 100%. I think it's probably a better relationship for her. I just want to highlight that right now so we can sum this all up later on at the end. I can come back to that part too.
Mariah Carey finally gets a gig at Madison Square Garden. However, before the performance, she goes back to the apartment, presumably to tell Dice that she finally got the gig. She finds a song that he's been writing as well as tickets for her concert at Madison Square Garden. So she kisses the tickets and puts them back and leaves.
That is the entire thing that happens there. Yeah, that's it. That's all that she does.
So now we're going to Madison Square Garden.
Well, before we get there, there's a slight detour in that Dice shows up now. It's sort of like Pokeroo, if you've ever seen that, folks. What happens is Mariah Carey leaves, and Dice comes in like 3 minutes later, and he's like, oh, I missed her. Because he sees the kiss on the tickets and the music that she's been writing, or that he's been writing. And so it looks like he's going to freshen up. He's going to put on his best can of Axe and go out there, and he's gonna go to Madison Square Garden. So I just want to highlight some stuff here. Again, the next scene is Dice walking. He's coming around the corner of a building, and he's walking on the road. So there's no flowers in his hand. I just want to say that right now, because he's just got his hands in his jacket. But also, is he leaving Madison Square Garden? Is he going to Madison Square Garden? They don't really say that, because now what happens is he's walking to his car, I think is what it seems like. Or he's just walking on the sidewalk. He's out on the street, and there is Terrence Howard, and he's standing there, and he sees him, and a scuffle ensues. And what happens is Terrence Howard now, because, you didn't pay daddy, you're going to pay daddy, is basically what happens now. Terrence Howard whips out a gun, and he shoots Dice in the chest, point blank range. And unfortunately, it is R.I.P. Dice right now. Hold on, moment of silence, and we're done. And what happens is Mariah Carey is now at the Madison Square Garden prepping for her show. And again, she found out that he got arrested through the news, and she finds out that he gets shot through the news as well, too. She finds out on the teleprompter there that Dice has been shot. And it's moments before the show, and she's heartbroken. And again, I'll say you're probably right here. She's not a great actress when it comes to this part too. Like, the only part you really need to be like, you think would be easy is like, think of something sad and cry. But she doesn't do that. It's like really bad acting here. Yeah. And again, like in Crossroads, when, Britney Spears sort of politely just pushed Mimi off to the side and took center stage at the end of the show. That's kind of what happens here. It's just like, oh, Dice died. That's not a big deal. I'm just going to walk up on the stage now, and we're just going to go through with the show.
Just a little bit ago, she canceled the whole show because Dice beat up Terrence. And now Dice has died, and she's just going to go through with the show.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Arguably the biggest gig of your career right now.
It's Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, maybe it is because it's the biggest gig of her career, and she's just like, you know what? He was a piece of crap, so I don't really care. But I don't know. She keeps going on with the show. But I guess, to be fair, she does sort of do a little thing at the start where she's like, take time to say hi to the people you love, because you never know when the next time is that they might be not, or whatever, right? Yeah, it was a very long thing that you could barely hear what she was saying. And then she started singing a sad song. And that's the show. At least that's all we see of the show. And this is why I said earlier that Dice didn't have flowers in her hand, because this is so weird. She goes backstage, there's a letter, and there's some flowers. And we hear Mariah Carey's voice overdub now, and she's reading this letter. But it is in the words of Dice, saying how happy he was going to be and excited he was going to see her show, and that he found where her mom lives. And he mentions the location, and she's been sober for some time now, and he leaves the flowers. Where in any of this did Dice show up? Was he leaving Madison Square Garden? I didn't see him with flowers at all. None of this.
But I want to go right back to what you said. So she reads, we're watching her read this letter, and it's in her voice, in her mind. She's not reading this out loud. Why? I don't understand that. If you're going to have a voiceover reading the letter, why would you have Mariah Carey reading it? I don't get that.
Why was it not Dice, right?
Yeah, why wasn't it his voice reading it aloud in her head?
I can't wait to hear you blow at Madison Square Garden there. Yeah.
Why did she just read it out loud?
The only thing I can think of is Mariah's ego, that she's just like, I'm doing this. He's not doing this, Because if you look at it too, like this guy, as far as I can see, he was only in a couple little small movies here and there, and he's basically done TV for the rest of his life. So she didn't really help him out, unfortunately. I guess this movie didn't help out his career. Maybe that's a safer assumption.
But yeah, like what you said as well. When did he do that? When did he send this letter? If he just found out where her mother was, why would he write that to her in a letter and mail it to her?
Well, it seems like he hand delivered it behind the backstage. It's just like a letter that's there for her.
Oh, I assume that he just sent this in the mail because, wasn't, like you said, he wasn't carrying any flowers or anything when he died.
He's not going to mail it out day of Madison Square Garden, be like, can you get this there when no one's around at the post office, right? Like,
So what did he do? Sneak backstage and drop it off?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. Did he leave? It's not like he's downtown. You hear cars honking, and you're in like this hardcore spot of New York where you would think is near Madison Square Garden. You don't see that. You just see him walking around a corner with nothing. I don't know what happened. That's what I mean. There is like a million miles of exposition between what just happened there, and they don't give you any of that. So I don't know what happened, but that's it.
Yeah. So Dice is dead, and Mariah Carey is left with the information of where her mom is. So now our diva hops in a limo and goes out to somewheres. We don't know where it is. She pulls into a yard. Her mom comes walking out of the house, down the stairs. They both cry and hug, and that's it. That's the end of the movie.
That's how this movie ends. So now that I'm here, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to just break down quickly here. Everybody in this movie is basically a horrible person except for Mariah Carey's friends. Mariah Carey is just a whatever person in this movie. She basically is just neutral as far as her character. And she just exists and just fabulous. That's about it. And like, did Mariah Carey's mom she just left? They said she got sober for like 10 years. Okay, now we're talking about this. This movie is 10 years. So she literally got sober like the next month after she lost her kid. And then she never showed up for this entire movie. What's wrong with his mom? Why can you be happy? How can you be happy?
Her daughter is famous on TV. She's kept her original name, Billy Frank. Obviously she knows who she is and could have contacted her. She's living a very good life right now. She has a nice, modest house. She's one lucky mother, because I can tell you, there's a lot of mothers out there who have given up their kids, and it's probably very rare that they show up 10 years later in a limo and just embrace you with a hug.
Yeah, you gave this kid away because you burnt the house down because you're a waste case. And
it was the kid was taken away.
That's right. The kid was taken away by the state because you got hammered and burnt your house down and you're a complete wreck. And then your kid shows up in a limo as a total success and wants to have a relationship with you. Like, why? Why did Mariah Carey? Why? And then the relationship with Dice. That went nowhere. There was no point in this. I guess he kind of got her a recording contract and kind of got her to be successful, but then he's a horrible person too. So how do you feel bad for this guy who at the start of the movie was really nice and happy and became a complete dick through the rest of the movie and then died? And I'm supposed to feel sad for this guy now?
Yeah. Mariah Carey's whole character arc in this movie was now, by the end, men can grab her breasts all they want, and nobody's going to put up a fuss about it. That's the point we reached in this movie by the end.
Yeah, and then again, I thought there was supposed to be some sort of romantic competition and tension between Dice and the other guy. And then I guess there wasn't because, yeah, you're right. It just went nowhere. It's like they did a song together and she's just famous. And that's it. Like she's just now a success and everybody else in her life, basically their whole life has just been ruined. And she just gets to go on to success.
This movie is so poorly written. The storyline's awful. It honestly wasn't that much fun to watch. The best parts for me were, like you said earlier, every now and then when something happens, by the end of it, you just throw your arms up and you kind of laugh and be like, okay, what was the point of that? Yeah,
this was a complete nonsense movie. None of this made sense. There were once I read that there was a lot of the stuff that was rewritten and improv, it was really easy to see how that's what happened here. You guys just made a movie with no idea of what you were going to do or where this was going. And you just decided to do a bunch of reshoots and make stuff up. So this is what you get.
With absolutely no regard as to whether Mariah Carey can act or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you're famous enough to just put you in a movie. I can understand that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. This is one of the worst examples of it, though.
A couple episodes ago, we were talking about Sylvester Stallone trying to have a country singing career. So
true, that's true.
Just because you're famous enough, they'll let you do anything. That's what it sounds like. This was a horrible movie to watch. This was kind of fun to talk about, though, because it was the cathartic experience of just getting this off your chest of like, why did you guys write these characters this way? They're all unlikable. Most of these character arcs just like, they start to go up and then they just completely just nosedive into nothing and it's unresolved. It makes no sense. A lot of this movie just makes no sense. And there was so much stuff that you just didn't need. We didn't need 5,000 shots of her in a studio doing stuff. We didn't need shots of her walking around with her friends, Dice playing some weird elevator jazz music.
Her singing the same 3 songs over and over and over.
And yeah, and repeating and reiterating to you what just happened in the scene before as well. Like there's probably 40 minutes of this movie that we did not need. This movie could have been an hour and 5 minutes in and out.
Yeah, half hour.
Yeah, this could have been a TV special. Really, that's what you could have done. Probably with commercials. You could have had a glitter TV special and everyone just forgot about it. That's it. I think that's a good place to end this one, though, because where else do you go from here with this?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So that's where we'll leave it up for this episode. And I guess we'll just leave you with some kind words from our friend Dice.
Fat ass. Don't mouth off again, roach bag.